All right, so let's begin. Okay, so let's talk about the question prosodic template. So, prosodic template contains the maximal syllable. Now, tell me, so prosodic template contains the maximal syllable. So, yeah, elaborate on that. What does this statement mean?
In prosodic phonology, a prosodic template is a theoretical structure that describes the organization of syllables and other prosodic units in a language. When we say that the prosodic template contains the maximal syllable, it means that the template outlines the largest possible syllable structure allowed in that language. A maximal syllable is essentially the most complex or largest type of syllable that a language permits. So, in designing a prosodic template, you are defining the boundary for how complex or simple syllables can be within that language. For example, in some languages, a maximal syllable might include complex consonant clusters or multiple vowel sounds.
Now, the next question is choose the correct ones. First, all languages have a set of constraints which produce the basic phonological and grammatical patterns of a language, of a particular language. True. Second statement is that actual utterances do not violate these constraints. That is not a correct statement because actual utterances do violate the constraints of the language. Third is the differences between languages lie in the relative importance given to the particular constraints. So that is also a correct statement. So because the differences arise from how much importance is given to a particular constraint. And fourth, the constraints are not mentioned in the description of a particular language. That is incorrect because the constraints are indeed mentioned in the description of a particular language. Now let's move on to the next question. The next question has two assertions. Assertion one says that autosegmental phonology allows the phonological processes like vowel harmony and tone to influence more than one vowel or consonant at a time. The second assertion is that in such an analysis, tone is a property of the whole word. So, go ahead and elaborate what these two assertions really mean.
Autosegmental phonology is a theory that looks at how different phonological features can be linked across multiple segments in a word. Let's break down the two assertions. First, the idea that autosegmental phonology allows phonological processes like vowel harmony and tone to influence more than one vowel or consonant at a time means that features can spread or affect multiple parts of a word. For instance, in vowel harmony, a vowel in one part of the word can influence the vowels in other parts of the word to become similar. Similarly, tone can spread across syllables or even across the whole word. Second, the assertion that in such an analysis, tone is a property of the whole word means that tone is not just tied to individual segments, but can be considered as something that affects or is applied to the entire word. This perspective allows for a more flexible analysis of how tone interacts with different segments throughout the word, rather than treating tone as something that is isolated to specific parts. Overall, these assertions highlight how autosegmental phonology views phonological features as potentially spanning across multiple segments, or the whole word, allowing for a more comprehensive analysis of these features.
Now let's move on to the next question. The next question talks about, so it has two assertions. The first is that there is a tendency for unwarranted generalizations of individual research findings from some women to all women. That's true. The second assertion says that using sex as a social variable reduces a complex social phenomena in a misleading way. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to elaborate because both of the first statement is true, but the second statement is incorrect. That using sex as a social variable reduces a complex social phenomena in a misleading way. Now, I don't know the correct. So both assertions are correct. All right. So both of these assertions are correct. I want you to elaborate, elaborate why this second assertion is correct, and also elaborate at the same time the first assertion and what these two statements really mean?
Sure. Let's break down both assertions. First assertion: the tendency for unwarranted generalizations of individual research findings from some women to all women is indeed a problem. This means that if research findings are based on a small or specific group of women, it can be incorrect to generalize those findings to all women. For instance, if a study only involves women from a particular region or socioeconomic background, applying those results broadly can lead to misleading conclusions about women as a whole. Second assertion: using sex as a social variable does indeed reduce complex social phenomena in a misleading way. This is because sex alone doesn't capture the full complexity of social experiences. Social phenomena are influenced by many factors, such as race, class, age, and personal experiences, not just sex. By focusing solely on sex, you might oversimplify or ignore the ways in which other variables interact and shape experiences, leading to a skewed understanding of the social issues at hand. So both assertions highlight different issues related to research and social analysis. The first concerns the risk of overgeneralization from limited samples, while the second points out the limitations of using sex as a sole variable in understanding complex social phenomena.
Okay, so also explain the first assertion, which is there is a tendency for unwarranted generalizations of individual research findings from some women to all women. What does this statement really signify or mean?
The first assertion means that research findings based on a small or specific group of women are often incorrectly generalized to apply to all women. For example, if a study is conducted with women from a particular city or demographic, it might not represent the experiences of women from other regions or backgrounds. So, assuming that the findings from this limited group apply universally can lead to inaccurate conclusions about women as a whole. This highlights the importance of ensuring that research samples are diverse and representative to avoid misleading generalizations.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. The first assertion here is that language is used as a signifying code to maintain the group identity. Male peer group exerts strong pressure on their members to use the vernacular. The second assertion is that the dominant role of women in child rearing leads to their more status conscious language behavior. Now, both of these statements are correct, so go ahead and okay. So that is true. Language is used as a signifying code to maintain the group identity, and the male peer group exerts strong pressure on their members to use the vernacular. That's true. The second, the dominant role of women in child rearing leads to their more status conscious language behavior. So elaborate the second assertion. Why does that happen?
The second assertion suggests that because women often take on a dominant role in child rearing, they may become more aware of and concerned with the status implications of their language. This heightened awareness can stem from the fact that language plays a crucial role in social interactions and status signaling. Women, being primary caregivers, might focus more on how language can influence their social standing and how their children are perceived in society. This can lead to a more status conscious approach to language use, as they may want to model certain language behaviors for their children or adhere to societal expectations related to language and social status.
So it's the love for the children, right?
Yes, it often stems from the desire to provide the best for their children. By being more status conscious in their language use, women might aim to set a positive example and ensure their children are well prepared to navigate social expectations and opportunities.
All right, let's move on to the next question. So, studies on language and gender usually consider the language or speech behavior of women in terms of. So, studies on the language and gender, they usually consider language or speech behavior of women in terms of deficiency model. Now, explain to me, what does this statement really mean?
The deficiency model suggests that women's language or speech behavior is often viewed as lacking compared to men's. This perspective assumes that women's ways of speaking are inferior or less effective, reflecting a broader societal bias rather than recognizing different styles or functions of language.
All right, let's move on to the next question. It has two assertions. First, language planning is deliberate, systematic, and theory-based attempt under government patronage to solve the communication problems of a community or a nation. Second assertion says that it consists of status planning and corpus planning. So both of these statements are true. Let's talk about the second assertion in detail.
The second assertion refers to the two main types of language planning. Status planning involves decisions about the official status or recognition of languages within a country. It deals with which languages are used in government, education, and public life. Purpose planning focuses on how languages are used to achieve specific goals, like improving literacy or standardizing a language for educational purposes. This can include developing new terminology or creating language resources. Both types of planning aim to address communication issues and promote effective language use in a community or nation.
Loaded. What's loaded? Coach, हमको respect देता हूँ भाई साहब. गाड़ी क्यों पहनी? ये गाड़ी क्यों पहनी?
It seems like your message might have been cut off. Could you please provide more details or clarify your question?
Live.
Could you please clarify what you mean by a lot of lips?
Hello guys.
Are you referring
Hello,
to something
guys.
specific or needing information on a
Can
particular
you hear
topic?
me? Can you hear me?
Of course. What
Oh,
specifically
then
do you
I
need?
want
Can help
to
you?
I want to tell you something. this this guy every time Joe yeah but this guy see this guy his name Roson Raj. Do you
It
know him?
sounds like you have something on your mind.
No,
What's
no.
going on with Joe?
I want to tell you this do you know Roson Raj?
I'm not familiar with Roson Gatsi. Who is that?
खाली बकचोदी.
Who is that? Oh, आपके साथ क्या हो गया?